Hi everyone, welcome. We're gonna just wait the usual like 1 to 2 minutes to get everybody on this webinar. And while we do so, I'm just gonna say a few words about myself. I'm Ben Costantini. I'm based in Paris, but today I'm in Biarritz in the southwestern part of France with amazing weather. I'm really happy to be hosting this session today with our friends from Hello Tomorrow. And in case you don't know it yet, Sesamers basically is a media that covers everything about startup events, technology conferences from all over the world, but mostly Europe. And we cover all sort of events from all sort of industries. And with some of them, like Hello Tomorrow, we have this sort of close relation for several years, I would say. And so we get the opportunity to create, this type of moments where the entire goal here is to give you more information about this event, but in general also how to approach it from a startup founder point of view, but also as let's say any participant. I think this type of information should be of interest to anyone joining us here today. Some housekeeping, please mute yourself. You can put your video on and we'll take questions, especially at the end. So if you have any question, you can leave them in the chat throughout the entire session, but also, at the end, we'll kind of, get people on to unmute their microphone and kind of go ahead and ask question. That's kind of the idea there. And I'm gonna get this started now. So the agenda, as I just already started, I'm gonna do a short introduction, then give the mic to Thomas, who is the Director of Ecosystem and Events at Hello Tomorrow. He will tell us kind of everything we should know about the upcoming edition of their Global Summit. Then I'm having an interview, a fireside chat with Sarah Jones, who is a principal at Zero Carbon Capital. She's been attending the Hello Tomorrow Global Summit already in the past and is attending again this year. And so my goal here is to get to understand how investors are approaching the event and how startup founders can interact with them better, kind of before, during, and after the conference. And then I'm going to do like a very short kind of 5-minute recommendation, do's and don'ts around pitching and kind of what is the document and how you prepare to introduce your company to investors and potential partners during events. It's going to be short, but it's just based on our experience working with hundreds of founders and especially technical founders in the past. Just wanted to make sure I can give you some tips on how to approach it. And again, we'll take, Q&A at the end. So that's kind of the agenda for today. And without further ado, I think, we're ready to get started. I need to give you the microphone, Thomas. Are you ready to go ahead and take the lead?
Yes, I'm ready. And I can also share my screen. So hi everyone, I'm Thomas. I'm director in charge of all the events and ecosystem at Hello Tomorrow. And today I want to say a few words and present the upcoming 2024 edition of the Global Summit, which will be the 9th edition that we're organizing. It's always been in Paris. And so the Global Summit is basically the event where we gather the deep tech community. So that means all the actors, all the key players that are involved in deep tech. So the funders, you lots, but also everyone that is needed and that is working with you. So the corporates, a lot of investors, and all the ecosystem around, so accelerator, tech transfer offices, public institutions, some research centers and universities, and a few media attending. It's not a super big trade fair. So compared to other events, it's relatively small. It's about 3,000 people. But it's not open to the general public. So we make sure to focus on having the right people attending and not just everyone. So that means everyone have the same mindset. They want to make the world a better place, and they think that deep tech and technology can help us do that. So that's the goal of bringing all those like-minded people and to foster connection between all those different actors. Just to give you an overview, when I say we are focusing on deep tech, we're covering a bit of everything in deep tech. So that means different technologies and different industries, from environment, energy, everything related to climate tech, basically, to healthcare, both on biology, medical biotech, and also on medical devices, digital health. And all the technologies that they use also like transversally on different industries. So on advanced computing, AI, quantum computing, robotics, etc. It's a very international event, so it's a bit more than half of the attendees are from Europe, but there are quite a sizable portion of attendees from overseas, and both from the US, Canada, and from Asia. And the event in itself, so 2 days, 21st, 22nd of March, and we have different parts in the event. So there's one part where we have exhibitors, so a mix of startups exhibiting, so in all the different verticals that I mentioned, plus exhibitors, corporates, investors, and all the different actors. We focus a lot on, as I said, on connection between actors. So there's big networking areas with tables that are available to everyone. And we put a lot of effort on the app, the platform that we use. And the goal is that everyone attending the event has access to the full list of attendees. They have filters to find like who are the best people, so you can filter by industry what they're looking for, if you're looking for investors, on what stage, etc. And you can request meetings with anyone, like with any attendees, not only with the exhibitors. And all the meeting rooms and the tables are available for anyone to have their meetings. So it's not restricted to just some people. And what's happening on stage during the event. So we have 3 main stages. The first one, the frontier stage, is the biggest one, and that's where we have discussions on basically either presenting the opportunities in different spaces, in different verticals, and discussing how can we make a change, how can we solve the challenges of today. And that means not just having the right technologies to solve those challenges, but that means how do we collaborate with existing actors? How do we take into account the existing infrastructure, the existing supply chain that we have, to really make a change? So if we're talking about electrification, for instance, of the whole economy, then what do we need to take into account besides just this is amazing technology for like renewable energies or the grid, but it's also all the existing players, the policymakers, etc. So this stage is really for that and transversal sessions. The Deep Tech Academy is more focused on business/entrepreneurship sessions. So that's more like hands-on insights, some best practices, some tips and advice, particularly for you entrepreneurs and for early stage deep tech entrepreneurs. I'll go a bit more in details on the next slides. And the third big stage that we have is our pioneer stage, and this is where we have startup pitches. So most of them are the finalists from our startup competition, and so we have basically startup pitches from all the verticals that we're covering, as I was saying, from new materials to space. And other than that, we have a few smaller stages with a lot of side events focusing on specific, either vertical, a lot of small networking events or gathering of communities like we'll have in quantum, in healthcare, in new materials, etc. So lots of also like smaller side events within the global summits that will be happening. Just wanted to give you a quick look at the program. So this is on the biggest stage that we have. So you can see a few examples of some of the sessions that we have. I was talking about, from like electrification, for instance, that's one of the session. One of the problems that we'll be facing also is, the critical mineral supply gap, not only for electrification, but for a lot of things in our society today. We have a mix of sessions that are also a bit more inspiring just to encourage you and encourage all the attendees to think a bit outside the box and to see what could be applications of certain deep technologies to different industry that they don't necessarily think about. So, for instance, the interstellar innovations session with a researcher from NASA who works on basically on biotech, on extraterrestrial biotech. And what's interesting is to see how could be the applications of these technologies that are developed for space and for space exploration on Earth, because Earth is becoming a lot less hospitable than it used to be. And so it's actually quite interesting to see when you try to grow plants on, in space, for instance, that's how it could be applicable to grow crops in inhospitable environments on Earth. There are also, you can see, so quite a few sessions on healthcare, on carbon dioxide removal. And we'll have also on that stage a few panels from investors. So quite a few investors that are attending the event and that are taking the stage. It's usually super interesting to see their insights, to learn how they think, because it's good to see like what they're looking for. And Ben will say a bit more about also like presenting, and particularly if you present to investors, and Sarah will also get some insights like from an investor point of view. But don't miss all those investors panels. And here, so on the second day, so you can see more session on different verticals on the food system, getting an overview on quantum computing, on what could be like where we are, on what are the applications in the different industries, on how to speed up innovation there. And I'll just go to some of the speakers that we have, and you can see more on our website. So as I say, quite a few investors, but then a mix also of funders, of researchers, of industry leaders, so from big corporation, and people from the ecosystem who have a deep knowledge in deep tech in their field, or broader to help deep tech entrepreneurs. I was talking a bit about the second stage that we have, so the Deep Tech Academy, which is more business/entrepreneurship sessions as well. So you can see some of the sessions there that we grouped by themes, for instance. So you can look at the startup journey. These are some of the topics that we'll tackle with some panels that are really about like giving tips and advice to early stage deep tech entrepreneurs. So the first step of startup creation is really about the co-founders and how you split the activities, how you go when you're spinning out from a university, for instance. So every kind of first step that you need to do right to avoid mistakes that could have big impacts later down the road. We'll focus a lot also in another session on the IP best practices. So if you're spinning out from a university, from a research centers, how do you negotiate that? And then what do you need to protect? How much does it cost? You need to patent everything everywhere. What do you need to take care of when you enter a collaboration with corporates, for instance, or on research collaboration? So all these, that's super important. Then one thing about a cap table, so equity, who should have equity in your startup at different stages? How much should you give to investors? How much should you give to your key employees and things like that? So we'll have kind of a panorama of how cap table should look like at the different stages. And then things that you maybe not necessarily a big focus from the start, but how to communicate about your technology. That's quite important, because you're communicating, it's not just to media, but it's also you're always presenting your startup, presenting your technology to investors, to potential clients, to potential partners. So we'll have a session on that, and one on kind of more HR focused on co-founder dynamics. There's usually few co-founders in a deep tech startup, from 2 to sometimes I've seen 3, 4, 5, 6. How do you manage that? How do you manage disagreement? How do you split the task between co-founders? How do you solve conflicts between co-founders? So this is very practical advice that's there. On that stage, we'll have a bit more also like business insights on collaboration, for instance, with large corporations, on building sustainable business model, and we have a few sessions focusing a bit more on some technologies. A few words just about the pioneer stage, so the third biggest stage that we have. This, as I said, most of the startup pitches are the finals from our global challenge. As you can see here, all the tracks that we have. So we have one sessions per track, per vertical, with in total a bit more than 80 startups that will be pitching on that stage during the 2 days. So this is just, quick image about what the exhibition area look like. So this is we have 2 levels. We have 1 level downstairs with around like 80 to 90 startups that are exhibiting. And upstairs is more the rest of the ecosystem. So we are quite a few international delegations for this year. Some corporates like Intel, L'Oreal, Safran, so really in different verticals. And some research centers and accelerators as well. Now, a few things, and I mentioned that a bit at the beginning, but the app that will be available like 3 weeks before the event, so that's beginning of March, you'll have there the full program. So one thing is to see what you want to not miss and bookmark the sessions. There's quite a lot happening at the same time. So say the 3 stage with the full program on the 2 days, plus some side stages with some side events. And then you can see the full list of all the exhibitors and the full list of all the startups that are part of our community called Deep Tech Pioneers. And then you can find all the participants. So you can filter through all the investors, all the corporates, etc. And you can reach out to them, you can send message, you can so connect, and you can book meetings with them. And then when you book a meeting, you request, and then you choose basically one of the meeting rooms when we have tables for those meetings. So this is super important to do all the work in advance, to see like who will be there and to plan your visits in advance. I wanted to mention just a few things around the global summits. You might have seen on the first slide, it's called part of the Deep Tech Days. So Deep Tech Days basically are what's happening the rest of the week of the 18th of March in Paris. There will be around like 10 to 15 side events. So there are a few already online on our website, and there will be more added in the next few weeks. So a lot of networking events, and then just wanted to mention the Investor Day that we're organizing the day before. So on the 20th of March, on Wednesday, which is just full day of one-on-one meetings between startups and investors. The startups are the startups that we are selecting through our Deep Tech Pioneers program. So if you want to join, it's not too late to apply on our website to join this Deep Tech Pioneers program. It's entirely free to join the program, so that's a good mix of around 300 startups and 150 VCs and CVCs. So you can see like a few examples, but we're covering, as I said, everything deep tech, and it's only investors that are investing in deep tech, so who know the specificities of deep tech startups, of mostly hardware-based B2B, longer time to market, etc., etc. So it's not just traditional investors that's saw the lights and come here, but then can't commit to invest in a deep tech startup. So it's really a curated audience, and it's for the Investor Day. It's really efficient way to have meetings like during the full day, and it's basically a big room with all the tables with all the investors. So you can also go in between meetings and talk to the investors that you want to meet. So yeah, that was it for a presentation. So don't hesitate to go visit our website to have more information about the program and the speakers, about what's happening. And happy to answer any question, I guess, at the end of the session. And yeah.
Always very good, very fast, straight to the point. A lot of insight into the upcoming event. And I really invite everyone to go ahead and write down your question if you have already some, and we'll take some time at the end to answer them all. So
Thank you.
thank you, Thomas. The next part here is to get into the brain, I would say, of an investor, to get to understand what they do, what they're looking for when they come over to an event like Hello Tomorrow. And I'm really pleased to have with us Sarah Jones, who is a principal at Zero Carbon Capital with us. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Could you start by telling us a bit about Zero Carbon Capital and your background?
Sure. So I'm a scientist by background and now principal at Zero Carbon Capital. And we invest in deep tech for climate. And we invest at the pre-seed and seed stages across Europe. We're a team of 5 based in London and Berlin. And we're all scientists by background, also with many years of experience commercializing hard tech and many years of investment experience between us. So yeah, I have a PhD in bioprocess engineering or industrial biotech. I worked in university tech transfer at Imperial College and Oxford University, and then also led the climate program at the Creative Destruction Lab before joining ZCC.
Excellent. Can you tell us a bit more about the key areas or technologies that you are focused on investing in at Zero Carbon Capital?
Yeah, so what we look for is technologies that have what we call an emissions reduction potential of 0.5 gigaton of CO2 equivalent by 2050. So really looking for technologies that are solving the hard to decarbonize areas. And we're open to anything that we think that will reach that target. But some of the areas we've sort of identified that are important are grid scale energy storage, industrial heat, aviation and shipping, replacing petrochemicals, livestock emissions, crop yield, green hydrogen, and then, of course, greenhouse gas capture or CDR as well.
Amazing. And how many companies do you have you invested in so far in your portfolio?
We've got 16 in our portfolio so far, and we're on our second fund now.
Okay. What is the ticket size, or how early do you invest in?
So yeah, we go really early, and we invest between 100,000 and £1 million.
Amazing. All over Europe, any geography preferences?
Across Europe. So UK, rest of Europe.
Okay, cool. Tell me now, what are you hoping to achieve through your participation at Hello Tomorrow? It's not your first time, right?
It's not our first time. So ZCC has been at Hello Tomorrow 3 times now. And we absolutely love the conference. So like Thomas said, the sort of focus on getting people there who are deep tech focused. So a lot of like-minded people that we really feel that and appreciate that. It makes it really good that almost every conversation you have is with someone who's a scientific entrepreneur or in the deep tech space in one way or another. So yeah, it's one of our favorite conferences. And our goals, what we would look to achieve, so of course, meeting startups who could be in scope for our investment thesis. We also like to meet other VCs who could be good co-investors or follow-on investors. And then there's also a lot of scope to learn. So like Thomas said, the stages where there are panel discussions, so we get an idea of the industries more broadly and where the sort of unsolved problems are and what people are working on. And then it's also an opportunity for people to get to know us. So what we are investing in, who we are, and why we could be good investors to partner with.
Okay. And so how many people are coming from your fund?
There'll be 3 of us. So it'll be myself and my colleagues, Pippa and Max.
How do you distribute yourselves, like in terms of, who's doing what during the event?
Yeah, so we last year what we did is we used the app, which we also found really useful, and went through as a team a list of companies that could be in scope for us, and then divided those between us. So we had a list of meetings between us, and then we'll also go through the talks in the same way and see who can cover what, because there is a lot going on.
And so when you're doing this, will you distribute yourselves and kind of, screen for the companies? Is there any specific types of innovation or startups that kind of catch your attention, or it's like you're very open and you're like just saying, to discover new things, new ideas?
Yeah, we're relatively open as long as we think that it could reach that high emission reduction potential of 0.5 gigaton that I spoke about. And then we look for things, so we really want to back scientific entrepreneurs and at the early stages. So, our first filter will be filtering based on geography, because we only invest in Europe. And then we'll filter out based on stage. So we're looking for pre-seed and seed stage. And then after that, we'll look for other things, but remain fairly open-minded in terms of what we think the impact will be, backing scientific entrepreneurs, teams that we think are vision aligned in terms of being determined to solve the climate crisis. And then we look for breakthrough scientific innovation. And yeah, those are some of the things we use.
You attended also the Investor Day the day before, like what Thomas was explaining.
Yeah, so I really like the Investor Day. I find it a very efficient and sort of curated way to have one-on-one meetings with founders, but it requires prep for that to be worth it. So really going through the list, and as a founder to go through the list of investors beforehand and pick the ones who you think are in scope for you and schedule all those meetings ahead of time. So yeah, we were really organized last year and had that all scheduled and planned out before the event, and that just made it really efficient at the time.
Super. I guess Thomas is like super happy to hear this, from you. Tell us,
Can I add something just on that, just to add what Sarah was saying? There's like particularly in Investor Day, but also at the summit, there's a lot of investors and a lot of startups attending, and it's in different fields, in different verticals, in deep tech, and so make sure so that the time is efficient for everyone as a founder to look for the right investors for you. We have when I said you can filter, you can see like on which verticals, which technologies, industry they're investing, on which countries they're investing, at what stage they're investing. So go and look at that and focus on the ones who are the right match for you at the time that you're at the stage that you're at. Otherwise, you'll lose a lot of time just going around, and it's also for investors, they are not likely to reply if you're not in their targets or investment focus.
Thank you, Thomas. I guess we were, chatting with Sarah earlier last week about this, and she was telling us that actually, when you were at the event last year, Sarah, you already had booked your meetings. So it's like there was very little room for, let's say, on the spot, meeting. Of course, you could meet people kind of randomly, and serendipity is always a nice thing, but your agenda was already packed. So it's not like, I'll just show up there and I'm going to meet them. Tell us, based on your experience also, kind of, common, mistakes or pitfalls that the startups are falling into when they're seeking meetings with investors, during an event, like as Thomas was saying, I guess one of them is that they're pitching you and it's not in your scope, but any other interesting, learnings?
Yeah, so yeah, just to reiterate that doing the research beforehand on the investor, so go to their website, go to the investor's website, look at their portfolio companies, and try and find the ones that are best for you. Yeah, because it does get really busy and you only have a certain amount of time. So be efficient in that way. And then if it's not clear what their investment scope is, then keep open-minded and it might be worth a shot. But just don't spend too much time if it's clear. Don't spend time actually if it's clearly out of scope, if the investor's out of scope. And then the prepare in advance. So yeah, it's true that we had our schedule filled before the conference even started, and there was still some inbound during the conference, but that was harder. So it's less likely that I'll have time to accept meetings and read material being sent to me before. And then another thing is because we sort of scour that platform for startups to schedule in meetings with, sometimes there wasn't a lot of information to go on. So make sure you've written your profile and you've put all the material and you've represented yourself well as a company on the app, on that networking platform. So then it's easy for investors to find you. Otherwise, you sort of, you might just miss a meeting. And then The other thing is to be as transparent as you can. So don't be too guarded with sharing information. You need to find the balance of getting your message across to investors, but of course without sharing any sort of pre-patented detail. But let the investor know what they need to know so that they can easily assess this as an investment opportunity.
Also, if I'm correct, you received their presentation before the meeting, or at least that was something that you enjoyed from the companies you were meeting, right?
Yes, I prefer that. So it's as much as you can, yeah, send your pitch deck or your one pager before. I'm not sure, I can't remember, Thomas, if you can link that in the platform, but if not, like reach out and send that before, because then once you meet them and there's, you know, the sort of busyness of the conference around and you've maybe got 20 or 30 minutes to talk, if they've already been able to read through, then the conversation will be richer. And also it means that, you know, I would get, if I see a pitch deck before, I get the chance to decline if it's mutually not going to be valuable time spent. I can quickly tell you, actually, this is not in our scope. You know, and that's just because VCs have usually quite specific focus areas in terms of what they invest in. So yeah, make the most of speaking to the right people.
And if you know, there's a bit of a debate around, you know, cold emails or warm intros in the investment, you know, journey of a company. Would you think, you know, of this, particularly in the space of events, do you think it's kind of enough to rely on the app? And it's a very good one. I can confirm that you guys do a good job at Hello Tomorrow, you know, using a good app for these meetings. Or should I also kind of, you know, get some a warm intro, like, or ask my network to kind of put a word for me ahead of my meeting with you? How do you see that?
I am happy, and maybe other VCs see this differently, but I'm happy just with the platform, actually. If you sent me enough detail, I can see for myself if it's in scope or not, and then we'll book a meeting or not. Later on, then I will want references and speaking more broadly to other people who've worked with you, etc. But I don't need that to speak with you as a first meeting.
Got it. And sorry, it's maybe a dumb question, but if a startup, you know, ping you and you already are booked, but the company is amazing, and would you do that? Would you like cancel an existing meeting to make room for this one?
Yeah, and actually a couple of times that happened last year, and then you move around like a casual catch up with another VC who you already know, or you fit in a session at lunchtime, or you even say, you know, just before we all go for drinks, like let's do a 10-minute or whatever you can. Yeah, so you do make a plan to squeeze people in, but it's just better as far in advance as possible to book those in, because those more last minute ones can be difficult and things can get lost.
Got it. One more question. I mean, maybe a couple more. How would you say, could you say, I don't know, a percentage maybe of companies that you kind of already know when you are, like, you know, looking for meetings, and so to use the event as an opportunity to meet in real life or catch up with a founder that you've already identified, and how much of it is like a new thing, you know, like a new deal flow that you discover thanks to the event? Like what, you know, 50-50, 30-70, what is going on?
I think it's mostly a new deal flow. That was my experience last year. But we do also use it for meeting people in person. So we like events to, you know, if we've seen a company sort of online or something, but haven't yet met them, or we've met them on a call but haven't met them in person, then it's a really good opportunity. So I would also encourage founders, you know, if you've spoken to an investor and they're still sort of reviewing your company, then use that opportunity to be like, oh, I see that you're at Hello Tomorrow, let's meet up in person. It's really nice, because you know, we are, you know, I'm sitting here in London, but we invest across Europe, but I don't always get the opportunity to travel everywhere. So it's, yeah, when you can meet in person, it's always much better.
Well, you were mentioning, you know, kind of the follow-up, you know, what happens afterwards. Can you share maybe if there was any success stories from attending events like Hello Tomorrow, maybe this one or others? Like, did you end up, you know, meeting a company that you invested in? What happens afterwards?
So immediately afterwards, I'll follow up with all of the, like over email, with all of the companies that I think are still in scope after having spoken to them. And then also I welcome those founders contacting me, unless I clearly said, sorry, this is out of scope, then feel free to email me, and like answer to any questions that we discussed during the meeting would be great, and any more detailed information. Yeah, the more sort of information you can send me is always better, so I have more things to analyze. And then we haven't yet, but would really love to have a portfolio company that we found through Hello Tomorrow. But we have got a couple of portfolios that we found through other events. Yeah, all our portfolio companies are doing well and have follow-on funding. Our founding partner of Zero Carbon Capital, she was an angel investor previously, and she met Lilac Solutions through an event, and that, you know, they're raising their Series C now. They raised 100 million Series B in 2021. So it, you know, definitely happens that investors meet startups and excellent portfolio companies through events. So yeah, I can't wait to get tomorrow one.
Thank you so much. You know, because sometimes, you know, we hear like mixed messages from investors. You know, we tell founders, no, stay out of this, just, you know, build and grind. You're saying that it can be also useful for the right, you know, founders and the right events, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Any last words for the crowd listening today, or, you know, a message that you want to share, or a call to action?
I think so. I have a link here to our ZCC blog, which has a blog post on our investment thesis, so why we're investing in the things that we do, and our approach towards it. So I'll link that into the chat, and anyone interested in ZCC and what we do is welcome to read that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time. I have a last part for today before we wrap up, and remember that we're open to take questions at the end. And these are a few slides that I prepared specifically around the topic of communication. So as you heard, you know, from both Thomas and Sarah, you know, the event is like a special environment for you to shine and to communicate properly about your company. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of remind you here as a start is make sure you know why you're going there, right? And as a starting point, we know that you might be attending events to network, meaning to meet people. It can be to communicate, to talk about your company, to exhibit, to have this sort of, you know, awareness building up, you know, throughout the event. It can be to raise funds, and actually, you know, as you can hear from Sarah, she goes there to meet with companies that down the road could match, you know, their investment thesis. And it's a very early stage fund. So for the organizers, the goal there is to present also matching companies. It can be to find clients, maybe a bit less at a pure startup event, but, you know, it's also part of the game. It can be to hire new talent. It can be to grow internationally. Or maybe you don't even know why you're going there. But obviously, I wish that you already know that when you are purchasing your ticket, making the investment to come over to Paris. I know Paris is not the cheapest city around to come to events, and Hello Tomorrow is quite a premium event. So you better, you know why you're going to come. And so what I wanted to remind you here, it's really going to be like, you know, 5 minutes, very, very quick of do's and don'ts, is that you need to prepare a specific type of, you know, presentation for this. It's something that we've been, as I was saying in the introduction of this webinar, we've been dealing this in the past with many different events, many different companies, but especially in the deep tech space. So like with founders who maybe have a stronger technical background, we kind of have to bring back the idea of like, this is the presentation you build for an event is a special one. It's a special document. And you heard that Sarah was referring to the one pager and to the deck. And I'd like to sort of stress this out. It's not a sales presentation. It is not an investment deck like the typical one you do for an investor when you go to an investment committee. And it's obviously not a symposium presentation or like a paper or a poster that you prepare for a scientific event, right? So this is a special type of content. So I have 5 don'ts for you of things that you shouldn't do based on our experience. Don't have too many slides. So an ideal deck for a meeting, like the one you're going to do like in a 20-minute meeting, is like 5 slides, you know, maybe 10, you know, for a pitch, up to 15 if you really have a long time for a pitch. And that's something like in a competition like the Hello Tomorrow Global Summit, it depends of the length, right, of your pitch. And specifically, the typical length will be like a 5-minute pitch followed by maybe 2 minutes Q&A. But some events will do like a 3-minute pitch. We also have done like a 1 minute, 60 second or 90-second elevator pitch. So really, it's very, very important you're able to have a short presentation. And so everything else, you have it in the next. So you can answer questions, you have the content, but the one that you prepare for that event is tailored to that need. Avoid having too much text, always try to use, large fonts and bet on smaller screens for your meeting or pitch than really like a bigger one. So think, if you have to do the meeting with your iPhone, or how do the slide look there, be ready for that. Don't, speak too much, don't talk too much. What Sarah was saying, you can send your deck in advance for a meeting. So it will, allow you to really spend the time together to answer their questions. For the pitch, same story, really save time for Q&A. So no small talk, right? You really go for the big picture, the big idea and the vision. One thing that I really have to say is the competition, the typical, slide where you see your competitors, with like the axis. You're not alone on the top right corner. This never happens. For me, it's like a big red flag because it shows that you don't really know your market as much as you should. And one last don't, and there were more, but these are like the 5, that are too, and too much confidence. So always prepare for the worst, no Wi-Fi, the clicker doesn't work, people are running late, there's no shows, you have to step in to be the first one pitching because the first, startup is not there, etc. Be ready for that and be ready to pitch Sarah when you're just gonna cross her in the middle of the corridor. So that thing, is important. And 5 do's, and that will be it for us today. Have images, images and videos are obviously the best way to support your speech and get people to actually listen to you instead of reading words on your slides. Have a demo. It's always easier to understand what you're doing if people can try it or even touch it, and that's really like a big takeaway from working with dozens and dozens of events. Some founders will find a way to kind of even hack into the format of the pitch and present their product to the jury, or this type of clever way of approaching it. And on the other side, I would have, someone having, like their 5 minutes of presentation. And at the end, the jury will ask them the question of like, okay, but what is it that you do, right? I still don't understand what you're doing, which is like one of the worst, feedback you can get from your pitch. The traction, showing your traction is always super important, especially showing kind of the latest up-to-date, metrics that you have. So your progress, your roadmap, anything that can show that you are there's steam, like you're picking up, there's something going on there. So always keep your deck current. Don't show me like the slide of traction with like stuff that are from a year ago. So for example, if you're a deep tech pioneer, please make sure to have the event logo on your slides. The team is super important. And sometimes, people don't really realize how much it is and how they can present this properly. We really want to hear why you're the best in the market and how you're going to win it. So I know it's sound maybe very markety, very salesy, but again, it's why it's a special thing. You're at an event, you're in a place where we're expecting you to stand out in some capacity. So if I get to learn about the backstage story of how you met your co-founder, I'm probably going to remember you better than if you don't really have that, right? And last but not least, I want to have a clear call to action at the end of my presentation. So if you're looking for investment, for example, if you're looking to do POCs or find new partners, anything that can, kind of create a conversation and give the audience or your meeting a stronger reason to kind of, be in touch with you. This is the strongest part of going, in real life, is that they heard your pitch, then they're like, oh, I want to talk to him afterwards. So these were my 5 do's for you today. And this is all I wanted to say. And I'm saying it because, we are doing this. In the follow-up, you'll see that we've been doing deck reviews for many companies. This is an example of one that we did. I'm not, I'm hiding who they are, but obviously they were on the top right corner of the competitor map. And that's it. I'm ready for Q&A. So if you have any question, either on the chat or right now live, you can unmute and just go on screen and tell us, if you have any question. And if there's no question, which, is a thing that usually happens as well, like we are super clear and everybody just got the info they needed, we can also wrap up this meeting today. Amazing. Thomas, anything that you forgot to say? We're good?
No, thank you very much, everyone. I think we had a discount code to share with the participants.
Yes, we do. It's in the thank you email, so you're gonna get it directly.
Perfect.
In the email. It's I think a 15% discount. So how much is the ticket, Thomas, right now for a startup?
So the startup ticket at 370 euros.
Okay. And for investor?
And for investors, it depends on the side events that you're going to, because we have different side events, but it's between bit more than 1,000 and 1,800 euros.
Very nice. I love it that you're able to have investor pay a lot more than founders. Sarah, do you have an extra tip for deep tech investors?
Yeah, I just added that now. I was just thinking about, the fact that you don't have a lot of time when you're talking to investors at these conferences. So practice so that you can really quickly and clearly articulate what your core innovation is. So deep tech investors want to know that scientific innovation, and they want to understand what it is that you have that sets you apart as quickly. So to sort of get to the point when you speak to them and bring that out as quickly as you can.
Yeah, as that's resonate with what I was saying, where you have people pitching and what they ask you at the end is, what is it that you do exactly? Because I still don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Are we just gonna go and wrap up? Thank you for joining us today. This was the Backstage at Hello Tomorrow.
Yes,
and
thank you.
We look forward to meeting you in Paris.
Yep.
Thank you very much. And thank you,
you.
Sarah. Thank you, Ben, for organizing.
Okay.
And we look forward to seeing you in Paris, where the weather is quite nice as well.
Okay, keep it like that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.